Next up, we have a timely panel that explores how regional leaders can adapt and prepare for a hotter and drier 2028. This panel includes Moderator Kate Wright, Executive Director of Climate Mayors, and panelists Shivaji Deshmukh, General Manager of the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, Patricia Dawson, Mayor of the City of Riverside and the Second Vice President of the Southern California Association of Governments, and Aaron Ordower, Environmental Deputy for LA County Supervisor Lindsey Horvath.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. It's been a really exciting couple days so far. It's been inspiring, and I've taken away a lot of ideas. So thank you to Matt Peterson and Lacey and the whole team for inviting us to be here. As we know, Southern California is experiencing more extreme heat as climate change progresses. And as the Executive Director of Climate Mayors, I work with over 350 mayors all across the United States. And as you know, Southern California is not alone in this experience. And we're seeing cities all over the world and in the United States that haven't historically experienced heat waves and the impacts of extreme heat. And we're also going to talk about drought and water insecurity. And so collectively, we're grappling with how do we build the social infrastructure, the physical infrastructure to respond to these new demands. So as climate mayors, we brought together a cohort of mayors, both on water insecurity and also on extreme heat, including mayors from Southern California, to learn from each other around these issues, to figure out how do you respond, whether it's urban greening and tree planting, whether it's making sure that community members are aware of cooling centers. How do we provide real, tangible advice so that residents know where they can get help, where it's safe? How do we do those proactive strategies to cool down our communities? But also, how do we make sure that when there's an acute scenario, an acute heat wave, that people know where they can immediately go for resources? As part of that, we put out a new extreme heat toolkit for cities that tackles some of those really tangible things you can do. People know extreme heat is very dangerous for them, but we need to speak to them with how they're experiencing it and how they can tangibly get help. So our mayors are learning from each other around this issue, and we're really excited to dive into this panel today to talk about what Southern California in particular is doing and how we can respond to extreme heat and thinking about upcoming events and keeping people safe at those events. So I'm excited to turn first to Mayor Dawson, who has a long history serving in government, mayor since 2020, but in other offices as well, and with an environmental science background and biology background. You are very well equipped to be thinking about this issue. So tell us a little bit about how you've seen the city of Riverside experiencing extreme heat in your time as mayor.
Thank you, Kate, and thanks for having me here today. And this is a great convening of minds to address, it's an existential crisis. I think we all know that, and we wouldn't be here today if it weren't. But I don't know, does anybody here know where Riverside is? Okay, all right, we're starting off on the good foot here. But Riverside, people think it's in the desert, but we are not technically a desert, right? In order to be a desert, you have to have less than 10 inches of rainfall a year. And Riverside is close, but we're not. So we're right on the edge of where coastal influence and desert influence sort of, for my ecologists out there, interdigitate. They come together right there. But we've, have always been hot. Riverside has always been a hot place, but in the past, I don't know, let's see, 25 years or so, we've had a 65% increase in the days that we had above 95 degrees. So that's a lot for us. 65% over the last 25 years of our days have been above 95 degrees. So one of the ways we deal with that, as most of you do too, we open cooling centers, right? If it's above 97 degrees, we open cooling centers. We have something called our Ready Riverside campaign, and we provide residents with timely information on how to stay safe during heat events. And then also we have gone through a couple of exercises with NOAA. We got a grant from NOAA to do a tabletop exercise on heat disasters, right? What do you do when you have a disaster with heat? And then we also hosted our very first ever inaugural heat summit last year, where we brought together academics and community members to talk about what we could do. So we're preparing for it. We're planting trees. We're doing all those good things, but it's here.
It sure is, and it's impacting our water resources as well, and how arid our community members, or how arid our communities are, and how our residents are experiencing those communities. So I want to turn it over to Shivaji. You have nearly 2 decades of experience in California water management, and now serving as general manager of Metropolitan Water District, one of the largest utilities. How you deal with water resources is really significant to all of us in California and in the nation. So how are you responding to the impacts of climate change on infrastructure, and how does heat play into how you're thinking about that infrastructure?
Thanks. First, I also want to express my appreciation to Lacey and the leadership of Matt Peterson here. Not only is he running Lacey, he's also one of my 38 bosses serving on the board of Metropolitan. We are a unique agency. We are the largest water district in the nation, providing water to 19 million people over 6 counties. It's important to think about where we get water and what Met and our partners have done over the past few decades in terms of preparing for this moment. Obviously, increasing temperatures have a negative impact on water supply for many reasons. But Metropolitan's first job was to move Colorado River water into Southern California to help sustain this, the development of Los Angeles and the communities around that. Then, a few decades later, we became the biggest purchaser of water that comes down the California aqueduct. So we do rely on imported water to provide that water supply reliability for us. But what Metropolitan in this region did well over 2 or 3 decades ago was recognize that conservation has to be a priority, and reducing the demands is going to have a great impact on the region, even beyond the state, in terms of making more water supply available for others. But we didn't stop there. As an industry, we focused on developing drought-proof supplies that are independent of the hydrologic cycle. And so we've got a great track record of developing recycled water all throughout Southern California. And I want to specifically applaud the efforts of the city of LA, who is really close to completing the Donald C. Tillman water recycling facility. That's going to be new water that is there regardless of if it rains or not. So for us, it's important to not slow down on the planning. In last year, our board approved the climate adaptation master plan for water, or we call it Camp for Water. And it's really an agency-wide policy approach to making sure we integrate climate change into the way we think about things, whether it's at the operational level, where we have just started our first receipt of 10 new light-duty trucks that are the Chevy Silverados, or it's our commitment to long-term planning to build more water recycling or storage. And so I'll just close with, we're in a great position now, even though we're experiencing the driest driest period on the Colorado River and highest temperatures. We have filled up our storage that increases the reliability. And so we just need to make sure we continue to plan ahead, because our reactions can't take place in months, they have to be years out. And so with our board leadership, we continue to be focused on that planning.
It's very impressive, and we really appreciated Met's support of our Western Water and Security Initiative. We work with mayors across the West receiving water from the Colorado River Basin, and a lot of the success stories we were pointing to were certainly from this region. So mayors learned a lot from what you all have been doing here. Aaron, I want to turn it over to you next. You bring perspective from, you worked at the City of New York, the City of LA, World Bank, and now as at the LA County for Supervisor Horvath. So can you talk a little bit about what the county's doing, talk about your heat action plan and some of the key actions that we're looking at through that blueprint?
Absolutely, and thank you. It's a real pleasure to be here. Good morning. Thank you so much to Lacey for organizing another fantastic event. These convenings are excellent, and I'm loving the conversation and learning from peers around our region. Greetings from Supervisor Lindsey Horvath at the county, who wishes she was here herself, but unfortunately is at a Metro board meeting right now and was at the board yesterday of supervisors, but is so committed to climate action and specifically on the adaptation agenda because it really is a life and death and a high priority for us here in LA County. Here in LA County, you may know we have the infamous distinction of being the county designated by FEMA as prone to more natural hazards than any other county in the United States. In our district, the 3rd district, which includes the west side of LA County, Santa Monica Mountains, and the San Fernando Valley, is the epicenter of that. Heat, wildfire, drought, coastal erosion, you name it. So this has really been a top priority of our work here at LA County. And on the heat front, we're really excited that just in February of this year, the Board of Supervisors approved the county's first heat action plan, which is really a roadmap for us at the county and for our unincorporated areas, but also for all of our cities, our 88 cities across the 10 million people who live in LA County, to use as a guide for how we can make our communities more safe and resilient to extreme heat, which is the deadliest form of climate change that you may know. We actually just had a record-setting 121-day in Woodland Hills in the city of LA. So our cities are not ready for that kind of temperature, whether it's on the west side or it's on the valley. This is a new normal. So that heat action plan really has 3 prongs. The first prong is about communication, making sure that we are effectively connecting with residents to know about their risks, finding out about where they can get resources, what is heat stroke versus other kinds of public health risks that come from heat and how they can take care of themselves, find a cooling center, et cetera. Maybe some of you even got texts over the last day or two from the county, from our emergency management about that. I hope so. The second is about our outdoor spaces. How do we cool those outdoor spaces? And largely that's focused on a few strategies, relying on our green infrastructure, trees, which are the most important cooling strategy in a lot of ways and obviously have other co-benefits. There's so many parts of LA County that have a deficit of trees, and it's real inequity. It's a real environmental justice challenge. So this roadmap of the heat action plan looks at how to expand tree canopy in several neighborhoods around LA County, as well as things like shade structures and other important infrastructure that people can rely on with partners like Metro and others. And then third is how do we cool our spaces indoors? And I think the most exciting part of that strategy is a newly passed plan by the Board of Supervisors for maximum indoor temperature for renter protections. So starting actually next year, renters and unincorporated are going to have to, their landlords are going to have to maintain a maximum temperature of 82 degrees. They can choose how they get there, but that's going to be a protection that's brand new. And because it's through our health code here in the county, it actually is a roadmap for other cities to pick up and incorporate into their plans because most of them rely on the county for their public health. So throughout this, the idea is that we're taking care of all of our 10 million residents, all the cities, and really a roadmap for how they can all take action.
Well, congratulations. That's very impressive. We'll be definitely taking a look at that and seeing how our mayors can borrow and steal from the great policy initiatives you're adopting. So as we're sticking on real strategies, Mayor Dawson would love to hear what are some of the most exciting initiatives that Riverside is working on?
Oh gosh, we have a lot. It's very similar to him. We have a climate action plan that we are just finishing up. We've planted more than 1,500 trees this past year. We have a new GIS layer that's being developed that will indicate where heat islands are so we can direct more tree planting. We're developing an interesting community center that is a joint climate resiliency center and a deaf community center. Riverside has a very large deaf community, and we think we're going to be able to accomplish 2 things with that. The other thing is, I think, on a more sort of larger sort of a scale, is looking at our own house first and looking at our fleet and what we're doing with our fleets. We were named the greenest fleet in North America 2 years running. We recently welcomed a company into our city called Voltu. They are doing manufacturing heavy-duty trucks, so you might want to look into them, like Ford F-350s. And they're electric, and they're manufacturing their we bought 20 of those. The first 20 off their line are going to Riverside. So we're trying to be creative in working together with industry, but also just trying to clean up the air, and also just try to make it cooler in Riverside with, as Aaron was saying too, with our tree planting. So lots of different things going on, but we have one other thing. I'll talk real quick. I never run out of time. We have something called the Northside Ag Innovation Center. This is the first of its kind in the country that has the first ever solar-powered greenhouses, and it's a relationship we have with UC Riverside, and it's also a community garden center. So we are developing ag crops that will withstand heat and be able to be grown in more drought-tolerant conditions. And there's research going on, but also supporting our community. So it's an interesting, it's connected to our transformative community climate action grant that we received in our area of the east side. So doing both things. So all kinds of good stuff going on.
All these issues are connected, so it's exciting to see more holistic solutions being developed. Shivaji, how are you thinking about directing investment at Met to ensure that the community is ready for the extreme heat we're increasingly experiencing?
Right now, Metropolitan obviously has a water supply priority in its mission, but we're focused on multi-benefit solutions. And I've got a couple I want to bring up. One, I'd say at more of a local level in terms of how we can partner to battle and mitigate wildfires. And then one in terms of how we find mutual benefit to recycle a supply of water that was originally viewed as waste, and now we're turning into potable water. So I'll start with a very successful set of partnerships that we've had with the communities in LA, Orange County, and Riverside County, where we look at all our facilities, where we have a number of them, over 50 billion in infrastructure assets from the Colorado River all the way to the coast in LA. And so our focus has been on how can we utilize those to partner with fire protection and allow access to our water, specifically through a heli hydrant program. So if we're able to retrofit our reservoirs and allow helicopters to come in when the wind permits and access our supplies, which tend to be a lot of this stored water in areas that are prone to fire, then we can provide that resource to them. So that's one of the things that Metropolitan has done in the last couple of years to great success. On a bigger scale, what we're really focused on is how do we adapt? And right now, I view us as an extremely reliable agency, but our water sources aren't necessarily, and they're constantly changing. And things change drastically from one year to the next, and we have to be flexible. But we also have to recognize none of those supplies are guaranteed. And so for us right now, we're focused on investment and planning related to a pure water program. There's a lot of water in LA County that's going out into the ocean that could be further treated, and with the technologies that we've had for over 50 years, we can turn it into the purest water around. And for us, we've got great success here in the Santa Ana River watershed, where Riverside's a part of, is the most recycled watershed I know of in the nation, and it's the most well-managed. We're using that as an example and building off of that with our partnership with LA County Sanitation District. So it's our job to look at local solutions, operational solutions, and also long-term solutions that'll protect us.
Very impressive. A lot we can learn from what you're doing here. Aaron, as we near time here, I'd love to hear just a quick takeaway from the World Cup games, what you're learning on addressing extreme heat around those games. And then we'll come back through and I'll ask all of you how you're committing to action on the road to 2028.
Absolutely. So obviously the World Cup is a great trial run, you could say, for getting ready for the Olympics. However, we do have the benefit that most of these games were in June. We had June gloom. We were right here in Inglewood. We're going to have a hotter more diverse set of places where the Olympics are going to be. So a lot of what we're thinking about is how do we make sure that we're investing in communities across our region, and through an initiative we have called 88 by 28, which is how we bring the 88 cities of LA County into the fold on the Olympics. How do we make sure that all those sites, all those parks that are going to host fan centers or watch parties, the Cultural Olympiad, how do we make sure that we can be ready with the hydration stations and the drinking fountains and the shade and the trees and information for how people can stay safe and cool while they enjoy this incredible event that's going to come to our region. Really thinking about this, there is an opportunity here to make legacy investments that are not just around venues and not just about transit, that's the mile to and from the venue, but really thinking about a legacy that goes into all of our communities here. And so that's where we're spending a lot of time learning from all these activations and making sure it's going to have a lasting impact.
Shivaji, how's the Met thinking about getting to 2028?
With the short time we have, I just want to talk about the energy and positivity I've felt personally over the past 2 weeks with the World Cup being here, and getting to work at Union Station has allowed me to further use mass transit and to see how relatively well run it's been is getting me motivated to push our staff to make sure we prioritize mass transit and we find ways to partner on water and transportation. And I think with the creative folks that we have and many people out there, there's so much opportunity to expand on that and share the joy that I've seen over the past few weeks and try to get that to the level we need in 2 years.
Love it. Mayor Dawson?
Taking us home. A couple different ways. One is to bring this topic up into every conversation. That's something that mayors and elected officials have, is a bully pulpit, and I use it all the time, right? To talk about that choosing between your economy and your environment is a false choice. Those two things are complementary, and in fact, what is good for the environment is good for our economy. So I would say that. The other thing is making it the easy choice for people to get out of their cars, to get on their feet, to do more active transportation. So working towards furthering more of our public transportation options and just making it the fun thing to do, not the have to do.
We talked a lot yesterday about the vibes of the World Cup and taking public transit, and so we want to keep those vibes up, and I know I'm leaving more hopeful and more inspired. So thank you all, and please join me in thanking all our panelists.
Thank you.